Good morning. This is Dr. Larry Straub, and this is my week 1 post for operations management. This will be on chapter 1, operations management value chains. So how I'm going to do these is I'm going to just go through the chapter learning objectives. That way we make sure we get all of the key points covered that we need to from the chapter. And so that'll keep us kind of on a good pathway to make sure that we're covering everything that needs to be covered. Plus I'll throw in some residual things here and there. And there will also be the supplemental videos that are on the Canvas site, and I'll be putting additional supplemental videos in from time to time. So be looking for those as well. I'll probably put those in my weekly announcements. And also possibly go ahead and do them in the Canvas segment or structure as well. So I'll play around with that a little bit this week. So moving on to the chapter 1 learning objectives. First one is explain the concept and importance of operations management. The definition of operations management is the science and art of ensuring that goods and services are created and delivered successfully to customers. This includes things such as the design of the goods, services, and the processes that create them. Also the day-to-day management of processes in the organization business. And then finally, the continual improvements of goods, services, and processes. And all of this depends on efficiency, cost of operations, and the quality of the goods themselves. The second objective is describe what operations managers do. One of the things I would highlight before I talk about this is just that much like accounting, being a lawyer, being a sales representative, things like that, operations management is a very defined track of business. And it's its own kind of mini profession, if you will. And so it's very detailed. Operations management, in essence, is where general management meets financial accounting and management accounting, and where logistics, all of that comes together. So general management, accounting, and logistics all come together in operations management. So in terms of what an operations manager does, there's about 5 or 6 key things. One is forecasting, to be able to keep an operation flowing, keep inventories at the levels that they need to be, keep raw goods coming into the plants or operations the way they need to. There needs to be a lot of forecasting. The next thing is supply chain management. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go here. The third thing is facility layout and design, making sure that we have the optimal layout and design of facility to create the best efficiency. Technology selection is the fourth, which is obviously a big component of the job as fast as technology evolves and changes. And quality management, so all of the quality management, the Lean, the Six Sigma tools, all of those type of things play into it. And then finally, purchasing. Making sure that we're purchasing the right goods and services for the operation and having them get there at the right time. Next objective is explain the differences between goods and services. A good is a physical product that a person sees, touches, and consumes, which is very different from a service, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And you have 2 different types of goods. You have durable goods. Those are products that don't quickly wear out. They last probably at least in the range of about 3 years or up, 3 years or greater. And a non-durable good is a product that perishes and lasts for less than 3 years. So that's not an exact line of demarcation, but that's kind of the standard line of demarcation that we use. And then within goods, you have tangible, and they're very tangible, and you don't have as much direct involvement with customers. Our business that we had, we were a dealership organization for a company called Case IH, a big farm equipment manufacturer. They were the manufacturer and we were the dealer. So we had more direct involvement with customers. They, as the manufacturers, did not have as much direct involvement with their customer base. Also, a nice thing about goods is they tend to be easier to predict than services. We'll talk about that in a minute. Service is primary or complementary activity that does not directly produce a physical product. It's more intangible. It does involve direct involvement with customers regularly, and the demands can be much more difficult to predict than with goods. The fourth objective is define the concept of value and explain how the value of goods and services can be enhanced. Value is the perception of the benefits associated with a good, service, or bundle of goods and services in relation to what a buyer pays. So goods or services are perceived favorably by customers if the ratio of perceived benefits to price to the customer is high. So let me give you an example. If we looked at our trusty little things, our Apple or smartphones that we have, I would say it's fair to say that the perceived value in a smartphone is very high. I don't know about any of you, but most of the nightmares I have in my life are not about boogeymen or monsters anymore. They're about I lose my smartphone. And I almost wake up in a sheer panic because our lives are on these phones. We use these phones. They're kind of the framework and the grid work for our lives anymore. So there's a very high perceived value there. Now let's contrast that with a landline phone, or if somebody has just a simple flip phone. Some of our parents or grandparents might have that, right? So, but think about a traditional landline phone. That is a very low perceived value. It doesn't add a great deal more value than what it's there for. It's there to make and receive calls. It really doesn't do a whole lot else. So a landline and the phones that we use for those are more of a commodity, whereas these cell phones are definitely, and these smartphones are definitely a very valuable product, and there's a lot of differentiation and there's a lot of perceived value there, and that's why Apple and some of these companies can command such a high price for these things. The fifth area is describe a customer benefit package. Clearly, and that's defined as clearly defined set of tangible and intangible features that a customer recognizes, pays for, uses, or experiences. So a good or service and peripheral goods and services are what comprise this. And I'll give you a few examples of this. Again, we could go back to our smartphone, and we don't just buy the phone, right? We buy the service that goes with it, and we usually buy a package. And the way they wrap most of these packages is they tie you into a certain contract with them, and then it's almost perceived that they're either giving you the phone or they're giving it to you at a very reduced rate, where when something like this might normally cost, say, $1,000, if you buy the package and you get the whole bundle and you're tied into a contract, they might give it to you free, or they might sell it to you for a couple $100, depending on the model. So that's an example of that. Cox Communication, which is more your traditional landline internet cable company, they do the same thing. They bundle phone, internet, and cable. Okay, so insurances bundle things. If you, American Family Insurance, they have a bundle, whereas if you have your car insurance, your home insurance, even personal liability insurances with them, it creates greater savings for you than if you're buying those products individually and cheaper. There's some value-added bundles. My wife drives a Mercedes vehicle, and she really likes their bundle of services and their perks in particular, where she gets free car washes, there's preferred parking at certain events, There's well, at least at one time, I don't know if they still do this, there was a VIP shuttle to the airport and back, things like that. And then Disney is famous for bundling their amusement parks, their resorts, their hotels, their shuttles, their vending, their retail, bundling all of that into a big package for people when they use the Disney services. Okay, number 6 objective is explain the difference between value chains and supply chains and identify 3 general types of processes in a business. So the value chain is the overarching chain for the business. It's a network of facilities and processes. It describes the flow of materials, finished goods, services, information, financial transactions from suppliers. It's through the facilities and processes that creates goods and services, and those that deliver them to customers. So in short, a value chain takes from the raw materials arriving to the plant all the way through to the delivery of an end user. And actually, you could actually even back up that from the raw materials arriving, you'd actually even back that up to when the raw materials are even ordered and purchased, all the way through the plant, all the way through the organization, and all the way through the end user. Now, the supply chain is a component of this, of the value chain. The supply chain actually deals with the physical logistics of moving these products. So it's a portion of the value chain. It's physical movement of the goods and materials through the value chain process. And it's supporting flow of information, financial transactions through the supply, production, and distribution of the processes. So in short, the supply chain is getting the materials to the production facilities, then from production facilities to the end users after a product has been converted to finished goods. So getting all the raw materials, getting everything to the production facilities is the first component of that, and then getting it from the facilities and to the end user is the second component of that. So the supply chain is part of the value chain, but it deals more specifically with moving the goods and services both in and out of the production process facilities. As far as the 3 types of core processes in a business, core is the first. So type of business process, it's focused on producing or delivering an organization's primary goods and services. So this would be the manufacturing and production processes. The second of the 3 business processes is support. That's focused on purchasing, managing inventory installation, technology research, those type of things. And then third is general management, and it's focused on accounting, information system, human resource management, and even marketing. So the 3 types of business processes are core, support, and general management. The 7th objective is summarize the historical developments of operations management. And there's a really good schematic and chart in the book and in the PowerPoint. So I'll just kind of skim this a little bit currently. But there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different historical developments that they key in on. The first is cost and efficiency, which was in the 60s. Next was the quality movement, which happened in the 70s and 80s. That's when total quality management really came on the scene. Third was customization of design, or customization and design, and that really took hold in the 80s and 90s. Time, which is probably time savings and the value of people's time. So convenience, things like that. That happened in the 90s, and in the 2000s, you started to see service and value. So really good service propositions and value propositions at that time really escalated and went to a new platform. And then in the 2000s and into the 2010, you started seeing sustainability really start taking hold. And then from 2010 to current, it has been, everything is about data and data analysis, data capture. And that has become a really big component of operations management. So data and analysis really took that. You'll notice in the Newman University School of Business, we have a business data analytics program now. So you'll see that in more schools now. You'll also see supply chain and logistics degrees and specializations in a lot of business schools right now. Those are all operations management. So all of that is really coming. So all of these things are still in the mix. This is just kind of when they really started to get introduced and noticed. Now we're working with a portfolio of all of this, and it's kind of a mix depending on which industry, which business as to what's most important. And the final business objective is the state of the current and future key challenges facing operations management. One is customer expectations. That what customers expect from businesses, from products, has just continued to escalate almost exponentially in the last 10 to 20 to 30 years, especially in the last 10 to 20. Evolving technology is the second key challenge. As technology continues to move at ever increasing rates, really increases the demands on businesses to be able to keep up with it. Third is managing workforces, and workforces, depending on the company, the size of the company, the scope and scale, can be extremely diverse. They can be very far flung and spread out. Some of them can be employed, some of them can be subcontractors, some of them can be part-time. They can, they could be outsourced, you never know. And the fourth area is globalization, which I think globalization, as we speak, is having its wings clipped a bit because of the current challenges that we face, but I don't think you ever will truly get that genie back in the bottle. So we'll hit the reset button eventually, and you'll see business travel, you'll see everything start getting back. Now, where will it get back to where it once was? The verdict's kind of still out on that. Sustainability, as we hear more and more and we pay more attention to global warming, climate change, things like that, people, companies are getting moved in the direction, even if they didn't want to move voluntarily, they're having to start moving the direction to make sure that they're focused on sustainability. And then last is optimizing supply chains. And that has always been a focus of operations management, but with globalization, it took huge leaps in different platforms in that respect. And again, with the current challenges that we face, you're going to see a whole new thing. People are going to be reassessing how much of their supply chains they have offshore, how much of it is in the Far East, for example, in China and India and places like that. And I think you'll see companies start trying to diversify more. Another thing that's going to be a challenge that's this pandemic has really highlighted is we were operating with just-in-time inventory. We were operating very, very lean on inventories, and that's why even now you still see shortages in paper towels, toilet paper, things like that. Our supply chains really still have not caught up with this thing because we were operating so lean, which was a good thing, and it was a necessity to compete in business. But now I think companies are going to have to really start even reassessing that, just in case we could get caught with something like this again. So to say that operations management is an important function of business would be a huge understatement. It is its own profession. Like I say, it may take different forms. It may be called supply chain management, may be called logistics, maybe called business and data analytics. There's any number of things that it could fall under, but it is its own really key component of business and management, and there is a way that you can specialize in these different functions if it's of interest to you. And I think the pay and the opportunities are very good, and I think they're going to continue to grow. So this landscape has and will continue to be very dynamic. It will be fast changing. So this is an incredibly good time to be in this course. It's an incredibly interesting time to be studying operations management, and I hope you'll focus, and I hope you'll dig in, and I hope you'll enjoy this course. So we'll look forward to talking to you next week. And as I said, there may be some supplemental stuff coming in the course of different weeks, so be sure and pay attention to that as well. And we'll look forward to talking with you more. So thank you.